My wife secretly forged my signature to sell our family home for $300, $0, then had an affair with my best friend, and now she's threatening to take everything, including the $200, $0 inheritance I never knew she manipulated unless I dropped the lawsuit. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be sitting here writing this down, but I guess life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. The most shocking thing. My wife, Lisa, not only cheated on me with my best friend, Mark, but she also forged my signature to sell our family home for $300, $0. Yeah, you read that right. She stole our house, and I only found out because of a series of tiny, suspicious signs that added up over time. We'd been married for 10 years. I thought things were pretty stable, sure. We had our fights like any couple, but I never suspected anything beyond normal disagreements. Lisa was always a bit bitchy, quick to snap, but I figured that was just her personality. She's the type who can be charming in public but a total nightmare behind closed doors. Still, I never imagined she'd lie, cheat, and manipulate me so thoroughly. Things started feeling off about 6 months ago. She became more secretive with her phone, always hiding it when I entered a room. She'd get defensive if I asked who she was texting or calling. I noticed her spending more time away from home, claiming she was working late or meeting friends. But I brushed it off. She's always been a bit flaky, and I trusted her, or at least I wanted to. Then came the day I found the evidence. I was going through some old papers in the basement, looking for a box of tools, and I stumbled across a bank statement I didn't recognize. It was from a joint account we closed last year, but it had a new transfer, $150, to an account I'd never seen before. I thought maybe it was a typo, but I looked closer. The account belonged to Lisa, and the transfer was made just a week ago. That was strange, but I didn't jump to conclusions. A few days later, I noticed her acting even more nervous. She was jumpy when I asked about her whereabouts, and suddenly she was insisting she needed space and time to think. Then one night I saw her phone light up with a message from Mark, something about meeting up later and no one can know. That was it. I decided I had to dig deeper. I started secretly checking her phone, her emails, her social media. She was deleting messages, but I managed to catch snippets. Flirty texts, plans to meet up after work, and even some explicit messages about sex. I couldn't believe it. My wife, who had always acted like she was so above it all, was cheating on me with my best friend. The betrayal hit hard, but what made it worse was the financial part. I found out she'd forged my signature on documents to sell the house. She'd been planning this all along. The day I confronted her, I was furious. I'd gathered enough evidence, screenshots of the texts, bank statements, and even the fake signatures she'd forged. I told her I knew everything. Her reaction. She looked at me with this icy smile and said, "You're overreacting, Tom. It's none of your business. I was just talking to Mark about some personal stuff. You're paranoid." She lied so easily, like she thought I was stupid. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The woman I loved, the woman I shared everything with, was nothing but a manipulative, lying cheat. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at once. How could she do this? How could she betray me? Our vows, our life, everything we built, just for some stupid affair and a quick cash grab. It felt like my entire world was collapsing. Now I'm sitting here trying to process what to do next. I've got her threats ringing in my ears. She's warning me she'll take everything, including an inheritance I never even knew about. She's trying to turn the tables, saying I'm the bad guy for accusing her without proof, even though I've got everything documented. Honestly, I don't know how I'm supposed to trust anything anymore. The betrayal runs so deep, and I'm left with this sick feeling that I've lost not just my house or money, but the woman I thought I knew. After discovering everything, I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever breathe normally again. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. How could Lisa do this? How could she lie and cheat so blatantly, then turn around and threaten me with everything she thought she could get. I kept replaying the scenes in my head, her sneaking around, the texts from Mark, the signatures she forged. It was like some twisted movie I was trapped inside. The first thing I did after finding out was to hire a lawyer. I knew I had to protect myself legally. She'd already forged my signature on those documents, and I couldn't let her get away with it. But even as I prepared for a fight, a part of me kept hoping she'd come clean, that maybe this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Deep down, I knew better. Lisa had always been manipulative, and her bitchy attitude made it clear she thought she could get away with anything. When I confronted her again, I wanted her to admit it just once. I told her I knew about the affair, the forged signatures, everything. Her reaction was infuriating. She rolled her eyes, scoffing at me, and said, "You're imagining things, Tom. You're paranoid. Mark and I are just friends. We're not doing anything wrong. You're making a huge deal out of nothing." Her tone was so dismissive, like I was some crazy guy accusing her of murder or something. I could see her trying to spin it, trying to deny everything, but I had proof. I had her texts, the bank statements, the signatures. Still, she kept lying, insisting she was innocent and that I was overreacting. It was a strange mixture of rage and despair. I never felt so betrayed in my life. I kept thinking about the years we spent together, the plans we made, the future I thought we had. All gone now. She'd taken that future and thrown it away for a quick fling and a pile of money she didn't even earn. That's when I realized I had to do something about it, something drastic. I started digging into the financial side of things. I hired a private investigator just to confirm what I suspected. She'd manipulated the inheritance I'd been left by my grandfather. It was supposed to be split evenly, but she'd found a way to divert it, claiming I'd signed papers she forged. I checked the legal documents, and sure enough, her signature was a perfect fake. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. All those years trusting her, thinking she loved me. Turns out she was just waiting for her chance to take everything. The most shocking thing was the house. I found out she sold it without my knowledge, forged my signature, and pocketed the cash. That was the moment I knew I had to act fast. I filed a lawsuit to stop her from selling the property and to recover what she'd stolen. It was a messy process. She fought back hard, threatening to take everything from me, including the inheritance, and to ruin me financially if I didn't back off. She called me names, said I was insecure and paranoid, and accused me of being a bad husband. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep it together. I felt like I was walking on a razor's edge, unsure whether I should just walk away or fight for what's rightfully mine. Every time I thought about her threatening to take everything, I felt a surge of anger. How dare she, after everything I'd done for her, building a life, supporting her dreams, trusting her blindly, she repaid me with lies and betrayal. It was like she was trying to erase me from her life, and I wasn't going to let her. I started to see her true colors more clearly. She's manipulative, selfish, and utterly ruthless when it comes to money and control. Her bitchy attitude, the way she dismisses my feelings. She's always been good at lying, spinning stories, and making herself out to be the victim. But I knew better now. I knew she was the villain in this story, and I was done being the passive partner. I was going to fight back, no matter what it took. The worst part, I still loved her, or at least I wanted to. I kept asking myself how someone I trusted so completely could turn into this cold, calculating woman. But love doesn't fix lies, betrayal, or stolen money. It just makes the pain worse when you realize you've been played for a fool. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. Not anymore. The more I dug into her lies, the angrier I got. Every new piece of evidence seemed to confirm what I'd suspected all along. Lisa wasn't just a bitchy wife with a temper. She was a master manipulator who'd been planning her escape for months. I felt like an idiot for not seeing it sooner, but I also felt this burning need to take control. I knew I had to be strategic, though. Going after her blindly wouldn't do any good. I had to think clearly, plan my moves, and protect myself legally. One night I sat down with my lawyer and laid everything out. We went over the forged signatures, the stolen inheritance, the house sale, the affair with Mark. My lawyer was furious and told me I had a strong case. She advised me to get a restraining order, freeze her assets, and start the legal process to reclaim what was stolen. I agreed instantly. I couldn't let her get away with this, especially not the house. It was the only thing I truly cared about, our home, the memories, the foundation of my life. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act of innocence, throwing tantrums whenever I brought up the lawsuit. She'd scream, call me paranoid, accuse me of trying to ruin her reputation. She even started lying about her whereabouts, saying she was just out with friends, when I knew she was meeting Mark or doing God knows what. Her bitchy attitude was on full display. She'd dismiss my concerns, call me insecure, and try to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. But I knew better now. I saw straight through her. One day, she tried to manipulate the situation even further. She showed up at my office, crying and acting like the victim. She said, "Tom, I don't know what's happening, but I swear I didn't do anything wrong. You're just accusing me because you're insecure and jealous. I love you. We can work this out." Her tears were fake, I knew that, but it still hurt. I felt a sick mix of anger and sadness. How could she lie so convincingly? How could she pretend to be the victim when she'd been the one betraying me all along? I didn't fall for her act. I told her to leave and that I'd be taking legal action. I'd had enough of her lies and manipulations. I started gathering everything I could: photos, emails, bank statements, witnesses. I wanted to make sure I had airtight proof of her deceit. I also hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to confirm her activities. It was a brutal process, but I had to be prepared. I couldn't afford to be naive anymore. The financial impact was staggering. I found out she'd been funneling money into her own accounts, draining our savings, and even manipulating my inheritance to her advantage. She convinced her family and friends that I was a terrible husband, an insecure fool who couldn't handle her success. Her reputation was everything to her, and she was trying to spin this into some kind of victim story to rally support. But I saw through her. I knew she was just trying to save herself, to keep what she stole, and to keep me from fighting back. Her threats kept coming. She warned me she'd take everything: my house, the inheritance, even my reputation if I didn't drop the lawsuit. She said I'd be sorry, that I'd regret messing with her, but I wasn't backing down. I was done being the victim. I was done letting her control me with her lies and bitchy attitude. I was going to fight for what's rightfully mine, no matter how much she tried to manipulate the situation. Some nights I'd lie awake, feeling the weight of it all pressing down on me. The betrayal, the lies, the stolen money, everything I thought was real turned out to be a lie. I'd question myself, wonder if I'd missed the signs. But then I'd look at the evidence and remember how cold and calculating she'd become. Lisa had always been a bitch, but now I saw her for what she truly was: a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted. I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. But love doesn't mean blind trust. I realize that now. Love isn't enough when the person you trusted the most has turned into your biggest enemy. I had to accept that I might lose everything: my house, my inheritance, even her. But I wasn't going to let her take my dignity or my future without a fight. I was prepared to see this through, no matter how ugly it got. I knew one thing for sure: Lisa's true colors had been exposed, and I was going to be the victim anymore. The legal battle was draining, and every day I felt like I was walking through a minefield. Lisa's threats kept escalating. She called me every name in the book, accused me of being paranoid, and claimed I was just trying to ruin her life because I was insecure. She even went as far as to threaten me with legal action herself, claiming I was falsely accusing her and that she'd sue me for defamation if I didn't back off. But I had enough evidence, screenshots, forged signatures, bank transfers, that I knew I was on solid ground. I started to realize just how deep her manipulations went. She'd spun a web so tangled that I sometimes wondered if I'd ever get out. She convinced her friends that I was an insecure, jealous husband who was just trying to control her. Her family was no different. They believed her story, and she used that to her advantage. Every time I tried to confront her, she'd put on that bitchy mask and dismiss me as paranoid or crazy. It was like she was playing a game, and I was the only one who didn't realize I was losing. 1. day, I decided to confront her directly about the house. I had hired a private investigator and he confirmed she'd already sold it. She'd forged my signature on the deed and the money was already in her account. I couldn't believe it. All those years I'd worked to build a life and she was just taking it all from under my nose. That was when I knew I had to act fast. I filed the lawsuit to freeze her assets and stop the sale. I wanted my house back and I wanted her to answer for what she'd done. Her reaction was classic Lisa. She pretended to be the victim, crying and saying she'd never do something so desperate. She claimed I was just jealous because Mark was more successful than me and that I was making everything up just to control her. She even accused me of being a terrible husband, saying I'd driven her to this. Honestly, it made me sick. The way she lied with that bitchy smile like she was the innocent one was disgusting. Meanwhile, she kept pushing her narrative that I was paranoid and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She started spreading rumors among her friends and family that I was abusive and controlling, things that couldn't be further from the truth. I knew she was trying to turn everyone against me, to make me look like the bad guy so she could get away with everything. It was classic Lisa, lying, manipulating, blaming everyone else for her own mistakes. I was furious but tried to stay calm. I knew I had to play this smart. I kept gathering evidence, talking to witnesses, and preparing for the worst. I hired a forensic accountant to trace all the stolen money and found out she'd even manipulated the inheritance I never knew I had. Turns out, she'd been siphoning off funds for months, diverting them into her own accounts. I was stunned. I thought I knew her, but she'd been planning this entire time. Her threats became more aggressive. She warned me she'd destroy me financially if I didn't drop the lawsuit. She said I'd regret messing with her, that she'd take everything from me, our house, my inheritance, and even my reputation. I didn't care. I was done being her pawn. I told her I'd see her in court and that I'd fight for was rightfully mine. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. Some nights I'd sit alone and think about everything I'd lost, my trust, my marriage, my sense of security. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by this cold, calculating manipulator. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been living in denial for too long, ignoring the signs that Lisa wasn't the woman I thought she was. Now I'm at a crossroads. I don't know if I'll ever fully recover from this, but I do know one thing: I'm not going to let her destroy me. I've learned that trust can be shattered in an instant, and sometimes the person you love the most is the one who hurts you the worst. I'm fighting for my future, for what's left of my sanity, and for the truth. Whether she ends up in jail or I manage to reclaim what's mine, I'm determined to come out of this stronger. I just wish I'd seen the warning signs earlier. The court hearings were a roller coaster I never signed up for, but I knew I had to see this through. Every day, Lisa would show up in court, pretending to be the innocent victim, spinning stories about how I was controlling and jealous, how she only did everything out of desperation. She'd cry on the stand, wipe fake tears, and look at me with that bitchy smirk like she was already planning her next move. It was sickening. But I had the evidence: screenshots, forged signatures, bank records, and I knew I had to stay calm and focused. She kept threatening me, saying she'd take everything I had, my house, my inheritance, even my reputation, if I didn't drop the lawsuit. I refused. I told the court everything I knew, showing the proof of her manipulations. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions. I could see the frustration in her eyes when she realized I wasn't backing down. She tried to intimidate me, calling me insecure and saying I was crazy, but I didn't flinch. I knew the truth, and I was determined to see justice done. Meanwhile, her threats grew more desperate. She started spreading rumors that I was abusive, that I'd hit her or controlled her, things that made no sense. I knew she was trying to ruin my reputation, make me look like the villain so she could escape with her stolen money. It was disgusting. I kept my cool, gathering more evidence, talking to witnesses who saw her manipulative behavior firsthand. I also hired a private investigator who confirmed she'd already transferred the inheritance funds into her own accounts. That was the final nail in the coffin. Then came the day of the ruling. The judge listened carefully, examined all the evidence, and finally made a decision. The court ordered Lisa to return the house, the stolen inheritance, and pay damages for the forged signatures. I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd fought hard for this, but I knew the emotional scars wouldn't heal overnight. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd trusted for so many years, had betrayed me so completely I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. Her reaction to the verdict was classic Lisa. She threw a tantrum, screaming that it was all a mistake, that the court was wrong, that she'd never do something so desperate. She accused me of ruining her life, of being a jealous, insecure control freak. But the judge saw through her act. The evidence was overwhelming and her lies couldn't hold up. She was ordered to pay back what she'd stolen, and the house was to be returned to me. It felt like a small victory, but I knew the emotional toll was far from over. In the aftermath, Lisa's bitchy attitude only intensified. She refused to accept defeat gracefully. She tried to manipulate her friends and family into siding with her, spinning stories about how I was the real villain. But I didn't care anymore. I'd learned that people like her thrive on manipulation and lies. I started focusing on rebuilding my life, getting rid of the toxic environment she created, and trying to piece myself back together. The hardest part was facing the fact that I still loved her, even after everything. That love, which once felt so strong, now felt like a distant memory. I realized I had to let go, that staying in this toxic situation would only destroy me further. I started therapy, talking through everything I'd been through, and slowly I began to accept that I deserved better. I deserved someone who would love and respect me, not manipulate or betray me. Looking back, I see how naive I was to think love alone could fix everything. Betrayal cuts so deep, it leaves scars that never fully heal. But I also learned that standing up for myself, fighting for what's right, is the only way to regain control. Lisa's threats, her lies, her manipulations, they won't define me. I'm determined to move on, to rebuild a life where trust and honesty are the foundation, not lies and betrayal. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: never ignore the warning signs. Trust your gut, stand up for yourself, and don't let anyone steal your peace. Now that it's all over, I sit here and reflect on what I've been through. Honestly, I never thought I'd get to this point, standing here, having fought tooth and nail to reclaim what's mine, after being blindsided by the woman I loved and trusted for so long. The betrayal was brutal. She stole from me, lied to my face, and tried to destroy everything I held dear. But somehow I managed to hold on to the truth, and I fought for justice. I've learned a lot from this mess. First, that people are capable of incredible deception when they think they can get away with it. Lisa proved that to me in the worst way possible. Second, that you can't ignore the warning signs, no matter how much you want to believe in the best of someone. The secret phone, the secret meetings, the forged signatures, they were all there, screaming for me to see. I just chose to ignore them until it was almost too late. Most importantly, I've realized that self-respect is everything. I spent so much time trying to hold on to a relationship that was already gone, convincing myself she was just stressed or busy. But deep down, I knew she was playing me all along. Now I see clearly that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and someone who respects me, not someone who manipulates and cheats. Rebuilding my life after this has been a challenge. I'm still healing, still trying to trust again. But I know I won't let this define me. I've taken the lessons to heart. Never ignore the signs, stand up for yourself, and never let anyone steal your peace. I've cut out the toxic people, sold the house, and started fresh. It's not easy, and the scars will stay with me for a while, but I'm moving forward. To anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation, trust your instincts. Don't dismiss the little red flags, no matter how much you want to believe in the best of someone. Love is important, but it doesn't mean sacrificing your self-respect or allowing yourself to be manipulated. Fight for what's yours, protect your peace, and never settle for less than the truth. In the end, I'm grateful I fought back. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done, but I now stand stronger. Betrayal hurts, but it also teaches us who we really are. I've learned to value myself more, to trust my judgment, and to never let anyone take away my dignity. Life goes on, and I believe better days are ahead. I just hope anyone reading this learns to see the warning signs early and never let anyone steal their happiness the way Lisa almost did to me.